It's hard to believe, but it's been over 10 years since Whitney Houston died. The singer first popped up on most people's radar in the 1980s when she recorded a long string of celebrated pop hits. That career carried her into the 1990s. It also helped kickstart an acting career that saw her co-star alongside Kevin Costner in 1992's The Bodyguard. Whitney's rendition of Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You on that film's soundtrack earned her Grammy Awards for Record of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Performance. By the 2000s, fans watched the singer sink into addiction and a turbulent marriage to fellow singer Bobby Brown. Much of that troubled relationship and its associated problems were made public in reality TV show Being Bobby Brown. On February 11, 2012, the singer died from a drug-related accidental drowning. She was just 48 years old. But what have they been hiding regarding the singer's death? You are about to find out. Whitney Houston's unmistakable voice and career left a major impact on the music industry, which she exited suddenly and tragically. The singer, nicknamed The Voice, was known for a powerful vocal ability that earned her multiple accolades throughout her life and even after her death. However, her drug use and tumultuous personal life behind the limelight became just as well known as her music. Whitney died on February 11, 2012, the day before the Grammy Awards, sending shockwaves through the music community and around the world. The singer accidentally drowned in a hotel room, leaving behind 18-year-old daughter Bobby Christina Brown. Her death was ruled as an accidental drowning with contributing factors of heart disease and cocaine use, according to the 42-page coroner's report. The toxicology report found that cocaine and metabolites contributed to her passing. Other substances found in her body included marijuana, Xanax, which is an anti-anxiety medication, Benadryl, which is an allergy medication, and Flexeril, a muscle relaxer, but they did not contribute to her death. There was water found in her lungs that indicated to us that she was alive when she was submerged underwater, Los Angeles County Chief Coroner Craig Harvey told People magazine at the time. According to our tests, the level of cocaine was not necessarily a lethal level of cocaine, but her death was complicated by chronic cocaine use and heart disease. Whitney was found unresponsive and submerged in her bathtub inside Suite 434 at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Beverly Hills, California. The singer was seemingly fine when speaking with her mother, Cissy Houston, at 3:15 p.m., less than 30 minutes later. Hotel security was called at 3:43 p.m. when the singer was found unresponsive in the bathtub by her assistant. Police officers arrived in her suite 2 minutes later, as they were already at the hotel in preparation for Clive Davis's pre-Grammy Awards party that evening. Officials attempted CPR on the singer before she was pronounced dead at 3:55 p.m. Whitney spoke on the phone with her mother around 3:15 p.m. on February 11th, just 40 minutes before she was pronounced dead in her hotel room. The nature of their phone call has not been revealed by Cissy Houston, but she said her daughter seemed to be fine. 2 days before her death on February 9th, the Grammy winner visited singers Brandy and Monica with Clive Davis during their rehearsals for the Music Executives Party on February 11th. Later that day, she made her last public performance singing Jesus Loves Me on stage with Kelly Price in Hollywood at a pre-Grammys party. Both the public and lovers of her music worldwide were devastated by her passing. When news broke of the singer's death, it made the front page of newspapers and was widely covered. Davis, Whitney's friend and mentor, still hosted his pre-Grammy party in the Beverly Hilton Hotel on the evening of February 11th, despite the singer's body remaining inside the building until 12:45 a.m. At the start of the event, he shared a tribute to Houston. By now, you have all learned of the unspeakably tragic news of our beloved Whitney's passing. I don't have to mask my emotions in front of a room full of so many dear friends. The Grammy Award winner continued, I am personally devastated by the loss of someone who has meant so much to me for so many years. Whitney was so full of life. She was so looking forward to tonight, even though she wasn't scheduled to perform. Whitney was a beautiful person and a talent beyond compare. She graced this stage with her regal presence and gave so many memorable performances here over the years. Simply put, Whitney would have wanted the music to go on, and her family asked that we carry on. In the days after her death, dozens of her friends and colleagues shared tributes to the late singer. "She will never be forgotten as one of the greatest voices to ever grace the earth," wrote Mariah Carey on Twitter. "To me, Whitney was the voice. We got to hear a part of God every time she sang. Heart is heavy, spirit grateful for the gift of her," said Oprah Winfrey. Other stars who shared messages of support included Tony Bennett, Smokey Robinson, Toni Braxton, and more. The singer's funeral was held on February 19th in Newark, New Jersey, where she performed as a child in the choir. The services included performances from several notable names, including Alicia Keys, who sang an emotional rendition of "Send Me an Angel," and Stevie Wonder, who told mourners he had a little crush on Whitney before singing one of her favorite songs, "Ribbon in the Sky." Even a decade after her passing, Whitney is widely regarded as one of the greatest singers of all time. Her influence on the music industry and overall culture is undeniable. As one of the best-selling musical artists ever, she continues to inspire movies and documentaries, posthumous music releases, and charitable work. But where did it all go wrong for Whitney and her drug-laden history? The singer had a squeaky clean image for the first half of her career, but in the later years of her life, her troubles became more apparent. She and her ex-husband Bobby Brown's reality show, Being Bobby Brown, tarnished her image, and allegations of drug abuse followed her for nearly a decade thereafter. Following her tragic death, fans were shocked and saddened, but not necessarily surprised. As it turns out, the surface-level drama was only a small portion of the traumatic life that Whitney led. Before becoming one of the world's most renowned vocalists, she had a heartbreaking past that was more insidious than anyone would let on publicly. The tragic real-life story of Whitney Houston paints a much sadder, darker picture than the legendary singer portrayed publicly. But the skeletons are beginning to tumble out of the Houston family closet once and for all. In the 2018 documentary Whitney, sources close to the Grammy winner claimed she suffered abuse growing up, creating psychological trauma that plagued her for the rest of her life. The singer's longtime assistant, Mary Jones, told Whitney director Keith McDonald that Whitney's cousin, Grammy-nominated singer Dee Dee Warwick, allegedly molested the singer. Warwick was 18 years Whitney's senior. Her brother, Gary Garland Houston, also claimed that both he and Whitney were victimized by a female family member as children, though he did not name Warwick. The incidents allegedly took place while Gary and Whitney's mother, Cissy Houston, was on tour. Jones claimed in the documentary that Whitney's experience is what made her so insistent on bringing daughter Bobbi Kristina Brown on tour with her. Jones also alleged that Whitney's sexuality and substance abuse problems later in life were tied directly to her childhood trauma. Jones claimed Whitney married Bobby Brown in 1992 in an attempt to stabilize her feelings. Warwick died in 2008. Insiders claim Whitney Houston was a drug user long before she met Bobby Brown, and that her handlers and record label deliberately peddled the narrative that he corrupted the good girl and got her involved in dangerous habits. "It's a fairy tale," said Rudy Dolezal, director of the 2017 documentary Whitney, Can I Be Me? Speaking to the New York Post in August 2017, Dolezal said, "The idea that Whitney was a great girl until Bobby came along is simply not true. Whitney took drugs and smoked weed a long time before she could even spell Bobby Brown." The singer's longtime stylist, Ellen LeVar, says in the documentary, "They did drugs. It was the thing you do. You go out, you party, you drink, you do a little drugs. Everybody did it. And her brothers gave it to her. It was just something you do to have fun." Whitney's older brother, Michael Houston, confessed that he introduced the singer to cocaine. "I feel responsible for what I let go so far," he said on Oprah's Next Chapter. "We played together. Everything that you do together as you're growing up. And then when you get into drugs, you do that together too. And it just got out of hand. You gotta understand, at the time, the 80s, it was acceptable. In the entertainment industry, it was just like, available. It wasn't like a bad word like it is now." Some sources revealed that Whitney struggled with the pressures of fame and being forced into a role that didn't feel genuine. There were a lot of expectations in terms of who she was and who people thought she was. said a source close to the singer's family. "I think not being able to be herself 100% was a hell of a burden for her to have to carry. Someone may look good on the outside, sturdy and strong, but on the inside, you have someone who had insecurities and family issues and emotional personal issues and struggles." The insider added that once Whitney signed with legendary producer Clive Davis, she had to do what he said, wear what he said to, sing what he wanted her to sing, and act like a goody two-shoes when she was really a down and dirty girl from Jersey. Whitney definitely resented that. A music industry source noted, "Clive made her into a mainstream pop star and allowed all of her wildest dreams to come true. But being this massive pop star came at a price. She had to act a certain way in front of the cameras for the label. That wasn't the real Whitney." A family friend told People magazine that Whitney used drugs as a form of rebellion against her clean-cut image and the people who tried to control it. "Drugs became her rebellion against it all," the source said. "There has to be some outlet. For her, it became drugs." A music industry insider concurred that the singer did drugs to escape her pain. Her drug use eventually transitioned from recreational dabbling to addiction. "Things got worse and worse," a family source told the magazine. "Suddenly, when she was using, she had no idea who she was or who you were, and she became angry and lashed out. We'd take turns checking on her in Atlanta when things were bad." The insider claimed enablers allowed Whitney to do what she wanted to do for fear of getting fired, if she felt you were not being cooperative on some level. In Bobby Brown's 2016 book, Every Little Step, he says he and Whitney failed their daughter, Bobby Christina Brown, and often used drugs in their little girl's presence. For some reason, Whitney's drug use got worse after Bobby Chris was born. Maybe it was because she had to stop using all those months while she was pregnant. But she resumed with a vengeance. "I would try to keep Whitney locked in the room, telling her she shouldn't come in front of our daughter because of the way the drugs affected her. But I couldn't police Whitney. Nobody could police Whitney. She did what she wanted," he wrote. "Our daughter was growing up in the middle of all of this," he wrote. "She often saw her mother and father high and was around the two of us when we were F it up. We tried to keep it away from her, but it was hard for us to see her only when we were sober. How much quality time can you spend with your daughter when you're high all the time?" This went on for years and years. Our daughter saw it all. When I think about it now, I just feel enormous pain. Los Angeles Times writer Amy Kaufman, who viewed Whitney at the Cannes Film Festival, claims the documentary paints a dark and sinister picture of Bobby Christina Brown. The doc reveals that Bobby Christina once attempted suicide while Whitney was alive, cutting her arms, Kaufman tweeted. She apparently said she wished she could find a way to K her mother without anyone finding out. A woman identified as Aunt Bay in the film claims that after Whitney came home from the hospital with baby Bobby Christina, she left her primarily in Aunt Bay's care for the first 8 years of the child's life. Though Bobby Brown and Whitney doted on their daughter in public, sources in the documentary allege that the superstars were neglectful parents who exposed Bobby Christina to drugs at a young age. But there is more. In the 2016 book Whitney and Bobby Christina, The Deadly Price of Fame, author Ian Halperin claims Whitney was targeted by a Chicago lawyer who tried to extort her. On the eve of the Bodyguard film debut in 1992, the attorney allegedly demanded $250,000 from the songbird, or he'd go public with intimate details about her love life. Whitney's father, John Huston, reportedly settled the matter by sending a confidentiality agreement almost immediately. It was unclear how much money was paid to silence the person and whether he met the initial demand for $250,000. What kind of dirt was the lawyer threatening to dish? It could have had something to do with rumors about Whitney being in a romantic relationship with her longtime assistant and close friend, Robin Crawford. Whitney and her mother, Cissy Houston, denied the claims, but even Bobby Brown alleged in his book, Every Little Step, that Whitney was bisexual. In Whitney, Can I Be Me?, the singer's former bodyguard, David Roberts, says, Bobby Brown and Robin Crawford were like fire and ice. They hated each other. They'd battle for her affections. And former stylist Ellen LeVar says in the film, I think she was bisexual. Robin provided a safe place for her. Former bodyguard Kevin Ammons claims Whitney's father, John Houston, did not approve of her alleged relationship with Robin Crawford. According to Whitney and Bobby Christina, The Deadly Price of Fame, Kevin says John offered him $6,000 to put the fear of God in Robin. Kevin says he refused, and John then allegedly warned the bodyguards to keep an eye on Robin. The singer's mother, Cissy Houston, told Oprah Winfrey she would absolutely be unhappy if Whitney had been in a relationship with a woman and that she didn't particularly like Robin because she was disrespectful sometimes, but turned out to be all right, I guess. They were very good friends. In 1999, Robin reportedly left the singer for good. In Whitney, Can I Be Me, stylist Ellen LeVar says Robin's exit was the beginning of Whitney's downfall. Bobby Brown also claimed that the family's scorn and Crawford's departure crushed Whitney. I really feel that if Robin was accepted into Whitney's life, Whitney would still be alive today, he told Us Weekly. She didn't have close friends with her anymore. And though in subsequent interviews, Bobby Brown has adamantly denied ever striking Whitney Houston, he admitted in his book Every Little Step that he did at one time hit her because she was allegedly doing drugs while he was trying to get clean. I did strike Whitney, he wrote. Me at the time, trying to maintain sobriety, and the person that's in your relationship is not going along with it. It was rough. The former New Edition singer also accuses Whitney in his book of having more than one affair during their relationship, and he uses those allegations to justify his own infidelity. In fact, she cheated before I did, he wrote. She slept with quite a few of the producers and artists that she worked with or associated with over the years. I won't drop any names here because they're still around, and a few view me as a friend. When I found out about the first one, I was blown away. I thought, okay, you gonna play me like that? I'm not that type of dude, but if you can do it, I can do it too. And while struggling with drug addiction and family issues on the professional front, Whitney also had to put up with some enemies, one of them being Madonna. Madonna didn't mince words when it came to Whitney Houston, who was one of her biggest Billboard chart rivals. Madge even described the I Will Always Love You singer as horribly mediocre in a letter to a friend in the early 90s. Madonna allegedly wrote that she was tired of being compared to Whitney and would rather die than be like her. Whitney appears to have remained diplomatic when questioned about or compared to the material girl. And while it isn't strange to get dissed by a rival, the singer was reportedly shocked when she found out that she was sold out by Bobby Brown's sister, who, at the time, was her sister-in-law. During one of Whitney Houston's darkest periods, her own sister-in-law, Tina Brown, reportedly sold her out to the tabloids. According to Vanity Fair, Tina was allegedly addicted to crack cocaine and sold a story titled Inside Whitney's Drug Den to the National Enquirer. In the story, Tina claims Whitney saw demons when she was high and believed the demons beat her up until she was black and blue. Tina believes the singer inflicted the injuries upon herself. And it seems Bobby also resented his wife's success. Whitney and Bobby were on relatively equal footing in their careers when they met in 1989 at the Soul Train Awards, but she eclipsed him in an epic manner with the success of 1992's The Bodyguard and its smash song, I Will Always Love You. Her longtime real-life bodyguard, David Roberts, believes Brown resented her for it, leading to the demise of their marriage. Brown was just not good at looking after her. He was always either in conflict or creating conflict, Roberts told The Guardian, adding that he believed Brown lost his own identity, which I suspect he resented deeply, especially as his own talents were inferior to Miss Houston's. Roberts claims Brown was physically and verbally abusive to Whitney, no matter how much she tried to placate his fragile ego. Brown was jealous of her success, so he rubbed her face in his cheating. But she forgave him every possible indiscretion. I just couldn't understand it, and it ate away at her. Roberts believes Whitney would still be alive today if she had not gotten involved with Brown. Unfortunately, Mr. Brown has a lot of inadequacies he has to come to terms with, and I'm not sure he has, even to this day. And even after death, it would later be revealed that the singer had close ties with an alleged con artist. Raffles Van Exel, a self-described entertainment consultant, was reportedly close to Whitney at the time of her death. He told the Mirror that he found Whitney's body, and he told a Dutch newspaper that he emptied her hotel room, though he didn't say what he removed. Sources told TMZ that someone may have removed evidence from the room before authorities arrived. One insider claimed that the same person who allegedly removed cocaine from Whitney's hotel room was the same person who supplied it to her. Van Exel vehemently denied any connection to those claims, telling the Mirror, "The only thing I did was help Whitney's family take all her belongings out of the hotel room after the police had given us permission to clear it. I did not clean the room, and I never said I did." Unfortunately, even after she died, someone close to Whitney still managed to sell her out, proving just how much those around her were hypocrites. After the singer's untimely death, someone at her viewing sold a photo of her in her casket to the National Enquirer, sending her family and friends, as well as the funeral home where she was laid to rest, into a tizzy trying to figure out who would do something so foul. And Houston's family issues didn't die with the celebrated singer. Tragically, when Whitney and Bobby's daughter died in 2015, someone also sold a photo of Bobby Christina Brown in her casket to the same tabloid for what was rumored to be more than $100,000. The Houston and Brown families have reportedly feuded with one another and exchanged blame, trying to determine who would stoop to such a level. But despite Whitney's well-documented drug abuse and the coroner's report, Bobby Brown still insists drugs were not to blame for her tragic death. He told Rolling Stone in February 2018 that she died from just being brokenhearted. Though the coroner's report cited cocaine, Benadryl, Xanax, and marijuana, Brown said she was really working hard on herself to try to be a sober person, and she was a great woman. Brown would not elaborate on what he believed contributed to Whitney's allegedly broken heart, or why he refused to believe she was still using drugs at the time of her passing. Whitney director Kevin McDonald told Deadline, "I think Bobby just isn't really ready to be honest. There's the perfect example of somebody who is, I think, feeling just very guilty. I'm surmising that I don't know that, but it feels like there's a lot of guilt and a kind of posturing and a self-protectiveness that's still going on there. And he felt to me just unwilling or unable to really be honest about himself, let alone to be honest about Whitney." Years after her sudden death, in November 2019, Robin Crawford released her memoir, A Song for You, My Life with Whitney Houston, in which she detailed their relationship for the first time. Crawford wrote that they first met when they both worked as counselors at a summer camp when Crawford was 19 and Houston was about to turn 17. Crawford said their relationship was a physical and romantic one, but not for long. Whitney ended their sexual relationship by gifting Crawford a Bible and explaining that being romantic would make their journey even more difficult. Crawford also said that Whitney's mother disapproved of the relationship and said it was unnatural for women to be as close as Crawford and Whitney were. "We never talked about labels like lesbian or gay. We just lived our lives, and I hoped it could go on that way forever," Crawford wrote. The pair remained close until Whitney's tragic death at 48 years old in 2012. Crawford says of their enduring bond, "Whitney knows I loved her, and I know she loved me. We really meant everything to each other. We vowed to stand by each other." Robin Crawford alleged in A Song for You, My Life with Whitney Houston that before Whitney Houston walked down the aisle with Bobby Brown, the How Will I Know singer was in hot pursuit of none other than Eddie Murphy. Murphy couldn't be tied down, however, even for just one date. Crawford wrote, "One day, when Eddie was supposed to come for dinner, I caught a glimpse of Whitney. She was wearing a black dress and low-heeled slingbacks. For a moment, I thought, boy, I wish she was doing that for me." But Murphy didn't show, leaving Whitney heartbroken. Crawford says the singer lost herself trying to land the Coming to America actor and comedian. It wasn't until the day Whitney was set to marry Bobby Brown that Murphy came around, with Crawford claiming Murphy called Houston to tell her she was making a mistake. She didn't listen. He'd already had his chance, and by then she'd moved on and was head over heels for the New Edition crooner. Clearly, Whitney didn't live a normal life, and what she went through is enough to drive any of us crazy. From abuse within the family to drugs to marrying a physically abusive man to being controlled by record executives, there's so much more that may have led the Grammy winner into her early grave. But the big question is, will we ever know which one it was? Only time will tell. And that's it from us today. Until next time, thank you for watching.